Hi, katzcradul here. A subscriber of mine sent me an article a few days ago, and I opened it up and it was very lengthy and I didn't have time to read it at the time, but I did scan it and put it in my to be read folder so that when I got time I could read it in its entirety. And I'm glad I did, because there's lots of great information in it, much of it startling, and I really advise that you take a look at it. I found it published in several places. Here it's at truthout.org, and then someone else sent it to me, and it was in Food and Environment Reporting Network. In fact, it was Elizabeth Royde is the author of this article, and she wrote that in conjunction with the magazine TheNation.com. So Food and Environment Reporting Network and TheNation.com worked together to put this out. But I also found it in Nation of Change as well. So lots of people have picked this up, and I'm not surprised. And I want to share just a little bit of it with you. You need to make time to read it, though, because it is an important article. And where I first read about it, the title of it was "Why Are Cows' Tails Dropping Off?" And it chronicles the plight of Jackie Schilke, who has a cattle ranch in the top left corner of North Dakota. And I'll read you just a little bit of the article just to give you a taste of it. Jackie Schilke and her 60 cattle live in the top left corner of North Dakota, a windswept, golden-hued landscape in the heart of the Bacon Shale. Schilke's neighbors love her Black Angus beef, but she's no longer sharing or eating it, not since fracking began on 32 oil and gas wells within 3 miles of her 160-acre ranch, and 5 of her cows dropped dead. Schilke herself is in poor health. A handsome 53-year-old with a faded blonde ponytail and direct blue eyes, she often feels lightheaded when she ventures outside. She limps and has chronic pain in her lungs, as well as rashes that have lingered for a year. Once, a visit to the barn ended with respiratory distress and a trip to the emergency room. Schilke has had back pain linked with overworked kidneys, and on some mornings she urinates a stream of blood. Ambient air testing by a certified environmental consultant detected elevated levels of benzene, methane, chloroform, butane, propane, toluene, and xylene, compounds associated with drilling and fracking, and also with cancers, birth defects, and organ damage. Her well tested high for sulfates, chromium, chloride, and strontium. Her blood tested positive for acetone, plus the heavy metals arsenic, which is linked with skin lesions, cancer, and cardiovascular disease, and germanium, linked with muscle weakness and skin rashes. Both she and her husband, who work in oilfield services, have recently lost crowns and fillings from their teeth. Tooth loss is associated with radiation poisoning, and high selenium levels also found in Schilke's water. State health and agricultural officials acknowledged Schilke's air and water tests, but told her she had nothing to worry about. Her doctors, however, diagnosed her with neurotoxic damage and constricted airways. Quote, "I realize this place is killing me and my cattle," Schilke says. She began using inhalers and a nebulizer, switched to bottled water, and quit eating her own beef and the vegetables from her garden. Schilke sells her cattle only to buyers who will finish raising them outside the shale area, where she presumes that any chemical contamination will clear after a few months. She says, "My health improved, but I thought, oh my God, what are we doing to this land?" I hope that gives you a sense of what this is about, and that you go ahead and read it. There's just one other section I wanted to read to you because I think it's so stunning. As I scroll down in the article, it says, "Fracking a single well," and I hope you know by now. I hope you're informed enough that to know that fracking is the way they're trying to get natural gas out of the earth, and they're doing it all over. They're doing it heavily in Arkansas. You can see how it's probably related to little small earthquakes they're having over there. In fact, there's been a shaking of the New Madrid a couple of times over the past few weeks, and presumably it's related to fracking. But here's what it continues in the article. Fracking a single well requires up to 7 million gallons of water, plus an additional 400,000 gallons of additives, including lubricants, biocides, scale and rust inhibitors, solvents, foaming and defoaming agents, emulsifiers and deemulsifiers, stabilizers, and breakers. About 70% of the liquid that goes down a borehole eventually comes up, now further tainted with such deep earth compounds as sodium, chloride, bromide, arsenic, barium, uranium, radium, and radon. These substances occur naturally, but many of them can cause illnesses if ingested or inhaled over time. This super salty produced water or brine can be stored on site for reuse. Depending on state regulations, it can also be held in plastic-lined pits until it evaporates, is injected back into the earth, or gets hauled to municipal wastewater treatment plants, which aren't designed to neutralize or sequester fracking chemicals. In other words, they're discharged with effluent into nearby streams. I will post the link below so that you can go read this article. I think it's something you need to make yourself aware of if you aren't knowledgeable about the process of fracking and what it's doing not only to our soil and our air, but what it's actually doing to the structure of the earth below the surface that we can't see. I mean, surely you've seen the news stories recently about all the sinkholes that are forming in areas where they're fracking. Pays to study up on this stuff. Until next time, this is Cat's Cradle.